Sometimes, life hands us the strangest tools just when we need them. As a Disney nerd, I couldn't help but laugh through tears in March of 2020. Only a few months earlier, my friends and I had watched Frozen 2 in theaters, a story about adapting to change and confronting the fear of the unknown. And as we received notifications about campus closing, we skipped to the dining hall to pick up our prepackaged meals singing, "This will all make sense when I am older, so there's no need to be terrified or tense." It was absurd. It was oddly comforting, and it stuck. So much so that on October 8th, 2023, feeling overwhelmed by uncertainty and fear, my then roommate and I belted the same song from our Jerusalem apartment balcony. Looking back, I think the Frozen sequel didn't just offer a brief escape, but a model, albeit an animated and musical one, for how different people respond to fear. Some, like Olaf singing "When I Am Older," forge ahead with blind optimism. Some, like Kristoff lost in the woods when Anna goes after Elsa without him, freeze. And some, like Anna at the start, want things to stay the same and run away from any hint of change. But maybe the most helpful response, the one that leads to growth, is curiosity. At this point in Torah, Parshat Shalach, the Israelites are also faced with an unknown and uncertain future. Arriving at the border of Eretz Yisrael, God tells Moses to send 12 scouts, the princes of each of the tribes, to explore the land and its current inhabitants. As many of us remember, 10 of the scouts come back disillusioned of God's promise that the Israelites would be able to take hold of the land. 2 scouts, Caleb and Joshua, still hold on to faith, believing that if the people have faith in God's promise, it would be fulfilled. The people, however, are unmoved by Caleb and Joshua's certainty and collapse, crying and wailing through the night. And because of this, according to the text, God forbids the generation that left Egypt from entering Eretz Yisrael. It seems to me that in the face of uncertainty and anxiety, the people of Israel could have used a Disney double feature of the Frozen movies. When most people tell this story, they put Caleb and Joshua on a pedestal. They are the truest believers, the only ones of this generation who merited settling in Eretz Yisrael. And as such, the 10 anxious spies are, at best, portrayed as weak due to their lack of faith in the divine promise, and at worst, demagogues intentionally sowing fear and anxiety into the masses. This creates a straightforward narrative, one that makes sense to us today. But like most stories, reality is more complex. I believe that this story illustrates the fatal flaw of the entire generation liberated from Egypt: a lack of curiosity. When faced with the unknown and potentially dangerous, curiosity is the key to paving a path forward. Dr. Sarah Schwartz, a Bible professor at Bar Ilan University, analyzes the Scouts report in 2 parts. The first half of the Scouts report reflects skepticism, but not a wholly negative outlook. They report that the land is fertile, shown by a cluster of grapes that require 2 men to carry it. They also report that the current inhabitants are strong, noting that they have large fortified cities. Matter-of-factly, the 10 scouts first report on both the good and the bad. It's the second half that gets them in trouble. The 10 scouts add that rather than the land being fertile, the land devours its settlers. The current inhabitants are just as dangerous as the land itself. They are Nephilim, mythical half-divine, half-human figures whose existence were first reported at the beginning of Genesis, before the flood narrative. The scouts never look beyond their perspective. To emphasize the danger of confronting the Nephilim, they report, "We looked like grasshoppers to ourselves, and so we must have looked to them." A midrash from Numbers Rabbah imagines God's reaction. God accepts that the scouts see themselves as grasshoppers, but is angry that they impose their perspective onto the alleged Nephilim, saying, "Do you know what I rendered you in their eyes? Who is to say that you are not as angels in their eyes?" According to this midrash, the scouts fail to imagine a perspective outside their own. They assume that everyone perceives the world the same way. Nor do the scouts seem interested in how the land's current inhabitants saw the world. They could have done more than just observe and draw their own conclusions. They could have approached the situation with curiosity and asked questions like, what are your people's perspectives on war or on peace? What have you heard about us, the Israelites? Are you welcoming to strangers? Had they embraced curiosity, they could have expanded their knowledge of the land and its occupants and brought a fuller report of the Israelites. Chances. The scouts let their anxiety blind them from exploring a different perspective and other possibilities. In response to the scouts' report, the people fall into despair, and in that despair, they find comfort in a romanticized past. As is typical of them whenever faced with a challenge, the Israelites exclaim, "It would have been better for us to go back to Egypt. Let us go back for Egypt." They choose the familiar over any new possibilities. Like Anna at the start of Frozen 2, who sings that "some things never change." They are comforted by the familiar, even when it's harmful. Their lack of curiosity keeps them from exploring new possibilities and where it can take them. In the movie, Anna ultimately risks the entire kingdom for a better future. But the Israelites cannot take that leap. Curiosity does not provide immediate comfort, but in the long run, it is the path to growth. Taking a step back, the 10 scouts didn't just intensify their rhetoric for no reason. Caleb's response to the scouts' initial report that the land was fertile and the cities were big and fortified forces the scouts into a direct confrontation. Caleb insists before any recommendations were made or any cries were heard from among the people that despite the challenges, they will surely overcome it as long as they have faith in God. And this is why Caleb is so often put on a pedestal. But his reaction also reflects a lack of curiosity that prevents him from showing compassion towards the people's anxieties. Once the scouts exaggerate their report, adding a devouring land and mythical Nephilim, Caleb doubles down, insisting that the people need only have faith. Like Olaf, Caleb's certainty prevents him from considering the feelings of those around him. Caleb may want to move forward, but in relying on blind faith, he does not leave room for compassion or collective growth. Caleb cannot lead the people he was freed alongside with into Eretz Yisrael. Curiosity on its own engenders new ideas and new futures. When we approach the world with curiosity rather than closed-mindedness, we also tap into resilience and compassion. It is only when Anna begins to ask what's the next right thing that each character and all of Arendelle can move beyond their past. Without curiosity, we are unable to empathize with others, to understand their perspectives, and as a result, fear and anxiety overwhelm us. God punishes the 10 scouts with their immediate deaths, and the rest of the people by forbidding them from entering the promised land. But Caleb is also punished for his lack of compassion stemming from a closed mind. He may enter Eretz Israel, but his tribe and his generation will not accompany him. Caleb and Joshua lead a new generation, but are alone in experiencing the full arc of the Israelite narrative. That sounds like a lonely and unfortunate role to play. The Israelites had the promise, they had the guidance, but without curiosity and the compassion and resilience that it breeds, we are all destined to remain lost in the woods of uncertainty. The only path forward is one of curiosity and exploration. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.